Greetings, everyone, and welcome to yet another video. I realize that it's been a while, but I thought that I would do a video since I had a little bit of spare time out of all the hecticness that's been going on in my life outside of YouTube and so on and so forth and all the projects. I finally came up with a title, guys, for my ebook, but I'll get to that in another update video or so. But I thought that I would do a video today on the Big Blue himself, and an idea that I was kicking around this weekend on Skype with F.W. Waller, TanakaCon 1985, and Ziploc Gory. And Ziploc Gory actually encouraged that I do a video on this. And I can't really say that I disagree. This is just an idea that I had been kicking around for about last year or so. But I thought about doing a story. And a story that I would love to actually do for DC that I know will probably never happen. Anybody who's actually read the Marvel Comics book Marvels or heard of the book, DC Universe Legacies, I wanted to do something like that for Superman. And I would have called this story Our Man of Steel. And what this is that, us as the reader, we've always seen Superman battle. We've always seen little bits of his psyche and emotional side and whatnot. But I thought I would do a melting pot of different things. One, breaking the stigmas that a lot of people have about Superman. About how he's not human, how he's unrelatable. And that there's really no reason to care about his character and how overpowered he is. And so on and so forth. But I got to thinking last year or so when I came up with the concept for this story, what is it like for Batman, Wonder Woman, Metallo, Lex Luthor, Mongol, Darkseid, Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, but also the people of Metropolis themselves? What is it for them that they see when they look at Superman? Like, for example, what's it like to see civilians see him square off against, say, like Atomic Skull or Doomsday or anything like that? And as F.W. Waller lovingly put it, what is it like for even the people in the office buildings when, say, Superman or Metallo or somebody's flying through them? These 9/11-esque events where buildings are getting knocked down, walls are being destroyed, and so on and so forth. These big, just like brutal battles that Superman has. And I also wanted to flip the perspective through the looking glass, if you will, from the people of Metropolis. Like, what is it for some of them? Are they scared of Superman? Are they in awe of him? Are some people inspired? Are some people very unsure about what to think of Superman? Do some, follow Lex Luthor's philosophy and believe that, how dare an alien try to be the savior of the world? Or are some people filled with hope? Filled with hope and as I said, are awe-inspired when they see Superman. And I also wanted to flip it for, Batman and Wonder Woman and all the other characters that I just named off in the beginning there. I want to see how also members of the Justice League and even members of course, Superman's own rogues gallery, how do they interpretize him? How do they view Superman? And I wanted to do this on many different levels, especially for the city of Metropolis itself. And I wanted certain civilians to have certain stories. For example, say for example, an old man, there would be this old man that would talk about how, he was nearly, fell off of a ledge, during, say, a battle with Intergang. Intergang had taken over a bank, and how Superman had not only, got in the way of an apocalyptic, laser cannon blast when this old man tried to escape, but also, him talking about how he saw Superman, take down, Intergang. And I wanted to have something, and this is a little controversial in its own right. I wanted to have a part in this story where this emo goth, heavily pierced, Asian kid, who I would try to make look very reminiscent of the Virginia Tech shooter. And the reason for this is because I wanted to basically put in that situation, Superman actually talking down talking down, but also at the same time sympathizing with, how this, teenage kid actually felt. And I wanted to have a moment where the kid gets, scared by, seeing Superman pop up all of a sudden, and he shoots at him. And Superman catches the bullet. He drops the bullet out of his hand, and he puts his hand very calmly on the kid's shoulder, and he starts giving, this really emotional monologue about how he understands what it's like, to be an outsider, and what it's like to be, on the outside looking in. And I think one great opportunity in this story that would be really great is to hear from Ma and Pa Kent, or just Martha Kent herself. Like, actually hear what it was like, raising Clark in Smallville. And I think that that would be a very rich, story opportunity to really tell. And also tell it from the perspective of, say, like, Power Girl, Supergirl, and, even Superboy. Imagine what it would be like for Connor, the actual genetic clone, to kind of talk about, how he has to try to live up to this legacy that Clark has, put forward. And I also really wanted to culminate this book with the idea of going deep within Superman's psyche, like culminate it with Superman himself. And I wanted to go deep into Clark's psyche and talk about all his insecurities, all the doubts that he has for himself, all the unsureness that he has for himself. And I really wanted to kind of, in a sense, like chip away the facade that everybody has about Superman and really go to the core of the character. I mean, imagine what it's like for Superman. Just for an example, imagine what it's like being the last of your alien race, being sent to Earth to be this big, ginormous, almost like, Jesus Christ type savior. And that, everyone's always watching you. They're always wondering, if you're going to become good, if you're going to be good, or if you're going to be evil, if you have like all these intentions, like all these insecurities, all these doubts that some of the people of Metropolis, but even the people of the world have. Imagine if, like, Clark internalizes that, and he feels very, like, overwhelmed by it. But that, he has to also express the fact that, he has to keep those emotions buried because so many people, even the League itself, rely on him. And I really want to kind of express that in the book, this great burden that Clark has to bear, as Superman. But I thought that I would actually do this video, guys, and just like give this idea out there. Questions, comments, video replies. Just tell me what you guys think. Does this seem like a pretty interesting story idea? Just let me know. See you later.